The 1.064 HP Chevrolet Corvette ZR1 is patently absurd. 1.000 plus HP, $175, is the most powerful production Corvette of all time, the handful you might expect? The decreasing radius S-curves, the blind entry, turn 10 king, the fast triple apex corner complex comprised of turn 16, 17, and 18, the deceptively fast turn 19. These are the big challenges circuit of the Americas, COTA, throws at a driver. Make no mistake, COTA is a satisfyingly special place to drive any quick and capable car. But when Chevrolet told us it was holding the official first drive event for the 2025 Corvette ZR1 at the flowing 3.41 mile 20-turn Texas home of the Formula One United States Grand Prix, there was a moment of pause and outright uncertainty. But those numbers, it's not that Corvettes in general haven't become incredibly capable road course cars, especially over the span of the previous 20 years. But ZR1s have always felt more like poster children for big American horsepower bragging rights with each successive and even bigger horsepower generation. To boot, the previous C7 ZR1 and its 755 horsepower at times scared the bejesus out of our judges during Motor Trend's 2018 Best Drivers Car competition. Inspiring comments like, "Nerve-wracking. Everyone complained about overpowering the rear tires. Even the ultra-savvy traction control system was utterly overwhelmed. The front obeys, but I never, ever trust the rear." And finally, it's the equivalent of driving an igloo cooler with 755 horsepower. Not exactly a confidence-inspiring track record. No pun intended. No wonder we could feel the sweats coming on at the prospect of tackling a fast F1 track in the 2025 Chevrolet Corvette ZR1. Its much-touted engine output, 1.064 horsepower and 828 pound-feet of torque. A seismic leap of 309 horsepower with additional -113 pound-foot icing on the rear drive cake for good measure. What an engine! The ZR1 model was planned from the beginning of the mid-engine C8 Corvette's development a decade ago, and its LT7 twin-turbo V8 was likewise designed alongside the Z06's naturally aspirated 670 horsepower LT6 to create a pairing known as the Gemini twins. But used twins lightly. Corvette engineers, likely annoyed by sweeping generalizations common in this era of fire-and-forget social media commentary, go to great lengths to remind us the LT7 is a far cry from being merely a boosted version of the non-turbo engine. Yes, the two 8-cylinders share the same block casting, 104.25mm bore and 80mm stroke. Same size valves, dual overhead camshaft architecture, and direct injection. The dry sump oiling system is mostly the same, save for the ZR1's turbo lubricating and extra 7th oil scavenging stage. But the LT7 ups the game with dished rather than domed pistons and shorter, redesigned titanium connecting rods, giving it a turbo-friendly lower compression ratio of 9.8:1 versus 12.5:1. Its flat plane crank features more machining work on its counterweights, and the engine employs different camshafts and cylinder head castings with bigger combustion chambers. The intake and exhaust tracks are shorter to deliver quick turbocharger effect. And the LT7 adds a secondary port fuel injection system to help deliver the massive amount of gasoline needed to create so much horsepower. With a total of 16 fuel injectors, all of which activate at full throttle, the car idles on port injection only before incorporating both systems to varying degrees depending on what the driver calls for. The ZR1 will suck down 2 gallons every minute its gas pedal is stapled to the floor. As for the two ball-bearing turbochargers, they provide an equally gobsmacking bit of anecdotal trivia. Chevy says they can move so much air volume, they could aspirate an entire Olympic-sized swimming pool in 4 minutes. The twin-turbo setup and its compressor wheels normally provide up to 20 psi of boost but can extend it to 24 psi to ensure consistent power output in hot conditions to minimize power loss. And don't worry about turbo laziness. The electrically controlled wastegates are tied to an anti-lag system that maintains some turbo boost pressure even when you hit the brakes for a corner. Meaning the blowers are preloaded so the LT7 is already set to provide the juice again immediately when you go back to the throttle. Of course, a motorsports-derived cooling system that employs a large front center-mounted radiator helps keep it all humming. And speaking of motorsports, think of the LT7's totality like this: buy a ZR1, and you'll own a wildly uncorked, unrestricted version of the engine that serves as the basis for the V8 used in the Z06 GT3R campaigned in pro-level international racing competition, including the 24 Hours of Le Mans and the Rolex 24 at Daytona. All the above is simply the nutshell version of what's going on inside the engine. Click here for an even deeper dive into the LT7's technology. Imminent destruction? We don't mean the engine's durability but rather the bag of flesh and bones and brains behind the wheel. The thing about engine output like this, doubly so when your past ZR1 experience lingers in your head, is that it initially monopolizes your attention to the detriment of other good things at play. Still, Chevy, no doubt acutely aware of the multiple potential intimidation factors from the ZR1 to the circuit, had the good sense to first put journalists on the racetrack in regular C8s as a combo driver warm-up COTA orientation exercise. No problems there after a chunk of lead follow laps behind one of the Corvette team's hot shoe engineers. But at least a little trepidation remained. Almost shockingly, it vanished as soon as we completed a few more laps of lead follow while driving the 2025 Corvette ZR1 for the first time. Before being let off the leash to lap alone at whatever pace we wanted to, were capable of. The lead car's speed was reasonable while clearly leaving plenty on the table. But as we probed deeper into the friendly throttle travel, it was apparent this ZR1 resembles its forebears in name only. Open the floodgates. Our first solo laps happened in a standard ZR1 equipped with the optional $8.495 carbon aero package and rolling on Michelin PS4 tires measuring 275/30ths R20 in front, 345/25ths R21 in back. Armed with some confidence about the car's baseline behavior from the lead follow sessions, we focused first on rolling into the power-off corners and onto COTA's front and back straights as quickly as seemed prudent. And an unexpected thing occurred. Zero notable drama. Save for big speed. Hit the hammer too abruptly. And the ZR1's tail dances and slides a bit. But it's easily catchable. Granted, Chevy insisted we not fully deactivate the car's performance traction management system. And we weren't particularly inclined to argue with the requirement for obvious reasons. But this controllability was revelatory, considering how the previous ZR1 tended to pay the driving aids little mind. Suddenly the engine's output wasn't incomprehensibly untamable. Perhaps the latter should have been expected. Powertrain management systems in the Corvette have come a long way in recent years. It's also entirely conceivable our extensive experience with the latest asphalt-cracking electric cars and some of the world's recent hypercars has tainted our perception of what 1.000 plus horsepower and instantaneous torque should or does feel like. Hell, we recently ran a Porsche Taycan Turbo GT YSAC to 60 miles per hour in a comically perception-altering 1.89 seconds and through the quarter mile in 9.2 seconds at 150.1 miles per hour. But that car carries an all-wheel drive traction advantage compared to this Corvette's rear drive configuration. With Chevy claiming the standard ZR1 on the PS4s and without the extra aero devices reaches 60 in 2.5 seconds and covers the quarter mile in 9.7 at 152 miles per hour. Within a lap and a half, and this still sounds a bit ridiculous to say, we mostly forgot about the LT7s on paper numbers and moved on to reveling in them. With the torque peaking at 6.000 revolutions per minute, and nearly there by 3.000 revolutions per minute. The horsepower doing the same at 7.000, red line is 8.000. And those two output numbers intersecting at about 5.250. You have nothing but incentive to rev the piss out of the engine. And you'll giggle like a jackass as the V8's apart buzzing shriek. Part bellowing howl delivers an emotional experience and connection the likes of which no acceleration matching EV remotely approximates. Thanks to the double-take inducing, for a combustion engine, linear torque curve. Top-end power. Not that we ever hit the ultimate top end in terms of road speed. Though we did see a not slow 176 miles per hour on the back straight. and quick shifts from the reinforced Tremec M1K dual-clutch 8-speed gearbox. You'll neither notice nor care that more boring yet quicker accelerating vehicles exist. The ZR1 pulls and pulls and pulls without turbo lag, reduction, or remorse. And hey, if an EV owner insists on yapping proudly in your ZR1 owning ear about the fact their car is tenths of a second quicker on a drag strip, just hop in your seat, stand on your gas pedal, and you literally won't have to hear another word of it. Call it the enthusiast's problem solver. And besides, you really never liked that neighbor. Anyway, just take care to warn them not to walk behind your car. The exhaust alone can belch up to 37 pounds of backward thrust at watt. So watch your legs. It gets even better. Our driving time was limited to lapping COTA to the exclusion of any public road experience. So these dynamic impressions are limited to that context until Chevrolet provides us with a ZR1 for further evaluation and testing back on our home turf. That said, we detected no traits to suggest it won't be comfortable to live with as a car to roam your local streets in, even at socially accepted speeds. As for the scenario at hand, once you begin to grasp the ZR1's breadth of abilities, you focus solely on extracting the best performance possible within your abilities. To that end, drivers who enjoy track days, especially experienced and talented ones who hunt lap times, absolutely want to ante up an extra $1,500 for the full ZTK performance package. You can't order the ZTK bits without also paying for the carbon aero pack. So the total price for all the Go Even Faster bits is $9,995 on top of the ZR1 Coupe's starting price of $174,995. For a still smoking bargain total of $184,990. Pricing for the hardtop convertible model we did not drive starts at $184,995. With the ZTK goods you also receive a more aggressive suspension tune with stiffer springs. All ZR1s also include a manually adjustable track alignment setup, as seen on other Corvettes, and track-oriented Michelin Cup 2R tires. There's now even more grip at your disposal, as the suspension and Cup 2R rubber team with the aero bits, including a towering carbon fiber rear wing and a hood gurney flap, plus front dive planes, undercar airflow channeling strakes, and an underwing from the Z06, to make for a mightily good handling car. Even when we expect to tip the scales at an approximate and far from svelte 3.900 pounds. Huge 15.7-inch front and 15.4-inch rear carbon ceramic Brembo brakes handle the business without fade when it's time to bleed off the huge momentum. As for the aerodynamics, Chevy says the ZR1 thus equipped is good for a total of about 1.200 pounds of downforce, or a 33% improvement compared to the Z06 with the Z07 package, without adding significant drag. That's partially also due to the way airflow is managed around, over, and through the car. Say goodbye to the front trunk storage. For example, thanks to the mid-mounted cooler and aerodynamic desire to pass wind through the hood. Importantly, though, this impressive peak downforce comes at the ZR1's 233 mph top speed. So it isn't exactly relevant to your track day outings. Also, that much hyped top speed is for the standard base ZR1 without the drag-inducing aero bits, with those addendums installed. It drops to mere, 224 miles per hour. For somewhat more practical application, the Corvette team says downforce measures 978 pounds at 186 miles per hour and 180 pounds at 80 miles per hour. The outcome being that drivers still greatly benefit from the aero performance in a variety of corner types and at a wide speed range. And so, back to where we began, flying into COTA's S's. The Corvette turns into the initial fast bit with aplomb and easily sheds mph while remaining stable into the multiple, ever-tightening corner radii that follow. By now, we've stopped giving the power, torque, and their delivery a second thought and are hell-bent on getting the chassis rotated into corners without asking too much of the tires. Where we heard plenty of rubber squeal in the non-ZTK car, there's barely any of it in the Max Attack ZR1. The blind kink at turn 10? We're almost certain it can be taken flat out, or maybe with a quick, slight throttle lift that's even less conservative than what we're doing. yet with high risk and zero reward other than an ego stroke no one else will ever see or know about. We can't quite get there, leaving just a bit too much margin every time and leaving us searching within. It's exactly the kind of thing that makes serious drivers smile. The same feeling applies, though a bit less, through the fast section at turns 16 to 18 where the car remains remarkably hooked up even as the exit seems to stretch for too long. And even more so for turn 19. The latter is the track's penultimate corner. A mind screw of a left-hander with loads of paved runoff on the outside of its exit curbing so you can throw away a bit of caution. Regardless, no matter how much we reduce our braking and increase our turn and speed, the ZR1 effectively mocks us. The chassis response is indicating that bigger cojones would pay big dividends if only we could muster more belief. It's at this point we realize the ZR1 has become, like many immensely capable modern supersports cars, especially ones with extra grippy rubber and meaningful downforce, a mental battle. The incredible difference compared to previous generations is how you don't find yourself ever thinking the car is the problem. And instead of wanting to park it and get out as soon as possible, you crave more and more laps because you know there's more to extract from yourself, let alone the machine you're piloting. That's another great sign of a rewarding driver's car. We also know, for our imaginary yet beyond reasonable money, the ZTK and carbon aero packs are the way to go. You'll need the stickier tires and the better traction if you want to replicate the ZR1's best official 0 to 60 and quarter-mile times of 2.3 seconds and 9.6 seconds at 150 miles per hour. Anyway, its own kind of thing, for all the ZR1's capabilities. Also know this, although we climbed out of it with a fair amount of sweat on our face as the result of high ambient temperatures. A satisfyingly physical driving experience thanks to the big grip levels, a high level of required concentration, and not out of any fear or intimidation. Chevy intends the new ZR1 to be a gonzo performance all-arounder. It's meant to be usable and livable in daily life, not a strictly track use special. In that sense, the engine makes the car's portly weight compared to something like a Porsche GT3 rupees, a McLaren 750 or 765 LT, or even the Z06, a non-factor when it comes to feeling like you've been strapped to an RPG as you hurtle down straightaways and out of corners. On the other hand, if you're a driver who craves absolute razorblade handling responses more akin to an actual GT-style race car, this isn't the Corvette that's going to give you that sensation. Something like the GT3 RS almost certainly will pull more lateral G through fast transitions. The ZR1 is more deliberate in its responses and requires more patience. Relatively speaking, when searching out its dynamic limits, it'll throw down quicker lap times than those types of cars on all but the tightest low-speed road courses. But it's going to get you that lap time in a different and raw power-based way. It's simply another kind of animal and an utterly absurd one at that. If nothing else, and there is plenty else, the Corvette team has patently changed what ZR1 means in the Corvette and supercar pantheon. And that alone deserves commendation. More to the point, there are no igloos here, but you're going to wish you had one loaded with cold drinks after driving it.